which Dragonfly in Riverboat Chat was kind enough to find for us.
Good evening.
Oh, the audio.
My name is Bert Emerson, and it's a moment to engage as a people.
This year to do, I represent all or parts of 12 counties in eastern Washington, and it's my hope that we can do at least one town hall in every county this year. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold here, so bear with me if I'm coughing a little bit. We have 5 little kids at home, and it's kind of a germ factory at our house right now.
Oh man, it's a germ factory over at your house? If only you supported vaccinations.
Now with school, and I should always say, we face the most complex.
We'll start with this question over here.
Senator said that Trump is defying court orders and abusing wartime powers to deport people with no due process. We're not at war, and Donald Trump is not a king. He is not above the law. What will you do to make sure he doesn't defy court orders and make a stand for the Constitution and democracy?
Y'all, that's question number 1. Question number 1 to an auditorium full of applause. I'm actually kind of blown away. Here, maybe I can make this, maybe I can make the audio output for you guys. Maybe I can make it stereo. Maybe I can fix it for you guys. Microphone mix. I don't want the microphone mix. Nope, not working. Sorry. Guys, I'm gonna have to put up with the audio the way it is. Look at that. Oh man, he's fucking pissed. Do you see that, guys? Do you see that? The look of murder on that man's face? Look at that.
Well,
oh man.
So you certainly have playing out right now an Article 1 versus Article 2 sort of tension. You know, Article 1, Congress is...
Yeah, an Article 1 versus Article 2 kind of tension. If only we had some kind of way of knowing which one might supersede the other, you know? Like some kind of, I don't know, ordering system, you know, like a numerical value attached to each article that might allow us to interpret things in a presumed order of importance, like, say, Article 1 versus Article 2. If only we had a system like that. Do you know Republicans can't count?
House Article 2 says executive authority is entrusted in a president. And within the powers of the president, you know, the top line authority that he has is national security, is the commander in chief. So.
No, actually. Fun fact for this lawmaker, no. The president cannot simply deport someone with no due process. That is not, in fact, a constitutional power that he has. If he could, I'm just throwing out there, hypothetically, if the president had this power, the president could simply, from a position of complete immunity, deport, say, all of his political opposition. You know? Deport his, opposition in Congress. Say a sitting member of Congress could get deported. Like, say we elect Joe Biden 3.0 in 2036. Joe Biden 3.0 could deport you for being a Republican. That is what you are currently arguing right now. Don't give them ideas.
So, you know, it's not good, it's not healthy for the Republic to have court orders that are not being obeyed. It's also...
It's like he's upset that they're cheering something he said because it's so inconvenient to him. This is actually fucking hilarious. I'm so glad we found this full video.
It's also not healthy for the republic when you have district judges that probably don't have the authority issuing national-wide injunctions. So,
you know, what's really funny about that is that he used the word a district judge probably doesn't have the authority to issue a nationwide injunction, except that it's a district federal judge. It's a judge for the federal government on federal issues. So actually, yes, a federal judge does have authority over federal matters. That's why they're called federal judges. It's not difficult to figure out. Guys, we've gone in a Republican district. In a Republican district, we've gone in the space of a month and a half from a room of about 24 people with about a dozen, older folks yelling at this guy, making him feel a fool, to an entire auditorium of people clapping and cheering as, they ask him questions that is going to require him to debase himself. And then they boo him when he does. It's honestly, I've never seen anything quite like it.
So let's get...
Look at that.
So, and you've seen
this looks like it's about a 4 times larger gathering than the one previously. Damn.
this with, each and every president. So just as Joe Biden... Well, you know what?
They're literally shouting him down with no kings. That's incredible.
Probably not a lot of lessons for the kids scout troop right now. But listen, when Joe Biden was doing stuff like...
Well, they're not even booing. They're not booing him for criticizing Biden. They're booing him for saying that Joe Biden did the same thing that Donald Trump is doing. That Joe Biden was, deporting U.S. citizens and U.S. green card holders and stuff like that. And they're booing a very obvious lie. And honestly, at this point, I hope you guys are watching this with the lens of, hey, this is where things are right now in a deeply conservative district after a month and a half. Where does this go? Where does this go if we give it another month and a half? Another 3 months? And I want you then to picture, where does this go in 6 months when the next budget bill comes up? Okay? When the next budget bill comes up in 6 months, in the span of a month and a half, we have quadrupled the size, the turnout size to Republican town halls. And you are hearing massive amounts of boos. In 4 times that amount of time, where do you get? Where do you get when people start realizing through word of mouth, through their workplace, through the grapevine, that, hey, if this budget goes through, you're losing your VA benefits, you're losing your health care, you're losing your Medicaid, you're losing your ability to continue to live. Like, where does that bring this type of turnout? Because I think that in 6 months, people are going to be so much angrier than this. Well, Vox Syndicate, I do think that it's going to take longer than that for Granny to be kicked out of her retirement home, because in 6 months we have the budget vote. The cuts to Medicaid and Social Security, well, the cuts to Medicaid at the very least, and Medicare, and a more full understanding to what's happening to Social Security is going to break through if you give it 6 more months, and if people keep being loud about this, and if people keep showing up to these town halls, and if people keep organizing, if you guys keep organizing. Because where we're at with this, guys, is when you organize with in your local political groups, in your local political party, in your local DSA, in your local, soup kitchen, what have you, you can start to flex your power at events like these. You can start to flex your power and improve things in your community. And that is going to snowball big time. Building out that foundation now provides a bigger springboard for 6 months from now. And I know things seem really bleak right now, but I need you to understand, we need to put in the work now so that we can do even more later. Because there are going to be people 6 months from now who are just then entering the fight. Just then getting involved. And things are bleak. But the thing that I take heart in is this type of public backlash growing even in the heart of Republican territory.
So,
how will this change if Trump declares martial law? If Trump declares martial law, it's going to escalate. Like, martial law does not cool off how people are feeling. Like, you can declare martial law all you want, but like, I don't know, you just pissed off like all the veterans and like all the lower ranked people in the military. Like, okay, declare martial law. I guess we're gonna see what happens with state militias, with state National Guards. We're gonna see what happens when the dice are down. Do you think this could end in violence? I think that Donald Trump very much hopes it does. But I do think that they are not currently positioned for that. I do not think our military is going to be so easily duped into abandoning the Constitution as to fire on protesters underneath the banner of No Kings with a picture of Donald Trump on it. I don't think we're that cooked. I don't think we have an army ready to like lay down their lives for a goddamn child king. Especially when their days are getting cut, their pay is getting cut, their families rely on the VA, their families rely on, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, when their loved ones are affected by cuts to those systems. And when, frankly, let's take a look, let's just stop and remember something here. And I was going to talk about this later, but like, let's talk about it right now. Okay? Real fucking quick. Where is this? I think I put it under the horrors segment of stream, which I don't think we're going to get to today, which is nice. Yeah, like, guys, I don't think when we have the military like taking down historical monuments and mentions of various heroes to Americans. I don't think that the military is on board with this. Like, frankly, like, guys, when we look at what's happening here, the military removed mention today of Jackie Robinson, you know, like the baseball player who integrated American baseball. You know, like, they're taking down mention of the Navajo Code Talkers, arguably a group of American soldiers, indigenous American soldiers who helped win World War II for the Allies. You know, they're taking down mentions of, you know, some of the, frankly, some of the, like, most important people and companies in American history. One of which, this is a great example. JACL condemns Trump erasure of the 442nd and 100th Infantry Battalion. For those of you who don't know, this is basically an erasure of any mention of these two areas. And this is a group of Japanese Americans who fought in World War II, guys. Mention of the Tuskegee Airmen. I believe they reinstated the Tuskegee Airmen on their website, but like, there are so many other groups that aren't being reinstated, you know? They are doing so much. Yeah, this is the most decorated battalion in the war. The Harlem Hellfighters. They're taking down so many of these groups, and I gotta tell you guys, people in the military don't like that shit. People in the military don't like that. It's crazy. Crazy stuff. The URLs are either changed or the pages are just inaccessible. Here is one of the deeds done by let's see, which regiment was this? Yeah, the 442nd. In one action, Kazuo Masuda ordered his men back and advanced through heavy fire, hauling a mortar. For 12 hours, he engaged in a single-handed barrage of Nazi positions. Several weeks later at Casino, Kazuo staged another lone advance. This time it cost him his life. And, like, in exchange for that service, for, like, a soldier and a company that, like, laid down their lives for America to fight fascism, to be summarily erased from the historical record in the eyes of the military? Nah. Anyone who has studied U.S. military history, like, knows about these groups. Okay? Yeah, removal of the 101st Airborne, integrating schools in Arkansas. Yep. And, like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, a lot of like the libraries on military bases. We talked about this like a couple weeks ago about how libraries on military bases are having their libraries purged of books that talk about fucking slavery. You know? That talk about basic issues related to race. It's disgusting. You know? It's disgusting. Aged Gouda, don't say that to folks in chat. Don't say that to folks in chat, because you know what? When you say that to folks in chat, You're just saying it to your mother. Why do you want your mother to die like that? It's a terrible thing to say. Anyway. Let's see. So, yeah, I do think that if things get violent, like, they may, though I suspect true violence won't outbreak until after they pass those tax cuts, if they are able to pass those tax cuts. So let's hope that we can stop that from happening. But this fills me with a certain amount of hope that by the time things get that bad in 6 months, we may have been able to organize a bit stiffer resistance to what these absolute, I want to call them dogs in the government want to do, but like that does a disservice to adorable and loyal companions.
Let the congressman answer, please.
So, for example, when each president, when Joe Biden decided to unilaterally release...
Well, Mithril, that's why part of what we need to do between now and then is get Chuck Schumer to resign. We need to be constantly calling on our elected officials to call on Chuck Schumer to get him to resign. And if you want to do that, you can do that with this link here that allows you to email your senator and ask them to call on Chuck Schumer to step aside. Look at this. Indivisible has a handy little thing here. You just fill it out. We need to make it happen. So let's make it happen. Call your senator even if you have a Republican one. Yup. You guys all got real good at calling the other day. Let's keep calling. Hello, Jazz Dog.
Leave student debt. You may have agreed with the process.
Also, folks, we've been going for over 3 hours. Sorry, I just checked the timestamp here. We've been going for over 3 hours now. If you've been enjoying the stream, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on the YouTube stream. And please consider dropping those subs, those donos, those memberships, those super chats. And please, remember, you all are the ones that make this show possible. I would not be able to do it without your assistance. Because, folks, this is still a small channel. I'm not Hassan big. But you know what? One day we're going to be bigger. Bigger than Hassan, baby. Let's go. Bigger and possibly more radical than Hassan. Let's go! Pluvius, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. And I'm realizing the alert box is
in
down.
the wild.
There we go.
You can out-patriot them and they might listen to you.
True, Pluvius. It is worthwhile to learn the language of patriotism. It's good to learn these legendary military divisions because if you meet a jingoist in the wild, you can out-patriot them and they might listen to you. Yep. Can establish your dominance, your intellectual dominance. Lady Raincloud, totally understand. And if you can, maybe take a day off. Turn off the blue sky, because holy moly, have I found that blue sky is just a machine that serves me sadness. Yesterday I actually just put I did skeet a lot. That is a failing of mine. But I did put down my skeeting machine long enough to read a book, which was really fun. I haven't had the time or the brain to read a book, and putting down the sadness machine helped. I have an executive steering committee meeting, a working group meeting, and 2 protests this week. Damn, girl! Hope you take a little break once you get through all that. You're what? On Blue Sky, they call posts skeets. keep up with the exercise. When I'm at my partner's house, I can't. We don't have an elliptical, but we're gonna be starting our exercising to fitness videos arc, and it's gonna be fun. Yeah, I finished reading How to Become the Dark Lord or Die Trying, which was very fun. About a little bisexual chaos imp. A human, but like just bisexual chaos incarnate. Who gets isekai'd into a fantasy setting, but it's like 1,000 years after she got isekai'd into a fantasy setting. And she's just been dying and respawning. And she's just fucking had it and decided that instead of trying to save this godforsaken kingdom full of ungrateful pieces of shit, she's gonna destroy it by becoming the Dark Lord herself. And it's a fun adventure romp. I'm not gonna lie. A light novel? No, it's actually just a novel. That sounds like a self-insert. Maybe. What book is that again? How to Become the Dark Lord or Die Trying. Do you read queer literature or any literature? I like reading fantasy fiction in my spare time. I will read like political books too, like histories of like neoliberalism and stuff, but like I really have been needing some light reading, so I decided to go with that. Yeah, by Django Wexler, which is what a goddamn cool name. Well, Lady Raincloud, I'm here to tell you that there are sexy fox people in this setting and sexy orcs. Sexy muscle orcs. And, you know, it's fun. I like it. Read Name of the Wind. Name of the Wind is fun. As one of the best opening pages in fantasy. Let's return to this shit show that I'm actually enjoying so much. This might just be its own segment.
So,
Good night, Nick Leftist.
Okay, we have a second question over from this side, I believe.
Well, that makes it very awkward.
Let's get to more questions, please.
My question's about Social Security, Mike.
Oh, you stepped in it. You stepped in it, Mike.
Americans have been paying into Social Security Trust Fund since we were teenagers. The promise was that those trust fund dollars would support our grandparents and our parents, and eventually one day we would be supported as well. This administration is firing staff, closing off.
Do you think Republicans even realize how much trouble they are in? Oh, Vox Syndicate. I think events like this that are getting bigger every single time they do them indicates to me that they are starting to get an inkling.
Offices and are on the path towards privatizing Social Security, absolutely following the Project 2025 blueprint. While Social Security remains one of the most effective programs in the U.S., with the least amount of fraud of any agency. If millionaires and billionaires paid their fair share in Social Security contributions,
True. Get rid of the cap.
our trust fund would be solvent. I timed it. It's 45 seconds. Be quiet. Will
Damn,
you
son.
commit to Will you commit to supporting
son.
legislation that raises the unfair cap on Social Security taxes so that millionaires and billionaires actually pay their fair share? Yes or no?
Dog, listen to those fucking cheers. Oh my god. Oh my god. Guys, I have never seen anything like this. Look at that. It's a standing ovation by practically every single person in this room. I don't know how this isn't the segment that gets put into the CNN clips. I mean, maybe I do know, but like, this is someone clip this from my stream and make it go viral. Wow. I don't know, like, this makes me hopeful, guys. This makes me hopeful. When I see this, like, I think, hey, maybe we're not cooked yet. Maybe we actually have some fight left in us. Maybe our organizing efforts are gonna pay off. Maybe we actually have hope. Maybe we actually have a future. Let's get into DSA. Let's get into our local Dems. And folks, if you need help doing that, you can join our Discord, message Dragonfly to get in touch with your local Dems, message GamerG to get in touch with your local DSA. Let's make this work. Let's be a part of the solution together, huh? Let's get more people out to these town halls. Let's host our own if our own areas aren't having them. Let's roast these motherfuckers on stage.
So we're certainly not touching Social Security, and there's going to be no cuts to benefits. Okay. And no, I don't support increasing that tax. Next question. I just say that we just came off an election. We did 7 debates in the election. This question came up in every debate that I did, and I had the exact same answer. So.
He looks so defeated. Oh my god. Like, I mean, look at his posture versus like the posture of like the moderator here. Like, the moderator is unbothered, moisturized, staying in his lane. You know, his only job is to read these questions. Meanwhile, this guy's just like, my spirit has been broken.
No, I do not support increasing the Social Security tax.
Okay, so now I have, we have a couple of student questions that I'm going to ask to move to the mics, but first a question from some of our written submissions. This is from Shade about the topic of DOGE, the Department of Government and Efficiency.
Oh my god. Do you see his face? He's like, oh, let's do some student questions. I'll get some softballs. Our first question comes from DOGE. Just like, look at how his face
Shade
changes.
About the topic of DOGE, the Department of Government and Efficiency.
I wish I had the soundboard. Just can we get oh my god. Just real quick here.
DOGE. This is from Shade about the topic of DOGE, or Department of Government and Efficiency. The question reads, I want to start by thanking you for holding this town hall today. DOGE claims to have already saved the American taxpayer more than $115 billion. But as of this morning, its published receipts amount to less than 35. Of the receipts which have been published, they contain material inaccuracies and overstatements. Do you believe the figures reported by Elon Musk and his agency to be accurate?
So what the important thing that has to happen with the DOGE cuts is that because there are a lot of college students here, and this is at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a civics event directed towards the college students. So, I mean, can you all just stand up and yell real loud for a little while and get it out of your system a little bit so we can actually have a conversation?
Oh God! Oh, he's fucking giving up. Oh my God!
So, let me say something, Doge. Okay, so it is appropriate, just as like Bill Clinton and every other president has done, to look at trying to cut waste, fraud, and abuse from government. And again, some of the
weirdly enough, Bill Clinton managed to do all that without DOGE existing or coming in to lie about it.
some of the things that government is doing are good things, but we just can't afford them as much anymore.
Remember that idea you just poo-pooed about taxing the wealthy? I think maybe we could afford them if we, kept having the wealthy pay their fair share. I think maybe we could still do that. I'm just spitballing here. I'm just a simple country streamer.
Again, the $37 trillion in debt is a real issue.
Yeah, which is why we're going to increase our debt by giving the biggest tax cut in world history to the richest people in world history. Yeah, makes sense.
So
No. You see, Kaname the Alpha, the inspectors generals may have provided some oversight, but sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, and so we got rid of the inspectors general so that we would have less of a good thing, which would be the ideal amount of a good thing, which is 0. See, it makes sense when you do the math.
But what's important with the DOGE cuts is that that money doesn't go away just because DOGE identifies it. It has to come back to Congress that has the power of the purse to do what would be called rescissions.
Oh, that's so weird, because that's not happening, you dumb fuck. You malign actor, you.
So, if the executive branch identifies some spending, it doesn't mean that the money goes away.
They're firing the workers that the money is appropriated to go to. You disingenuous fuck.
But there is an opportunity called rescission where the Congress... DOGE has made some mistakes. I mean, they have talked about that. So that's why I was one of the legislators in a bipartisan fashion that said if someone is mistakenly fired by the executive branch during their probationary period and then rehired, they wouldn't lose their probationary status. I think that's just common sense. So, yeah. Well, I mean, the president is the head of the executive branch, so he gets to run the executive branch.
Yeah, except that Congress is the one who appropriates funds for different departments. And the president doesn't get, and it's established law, the president doesn't get unilateral authority to not spend the money appropriated by Congress, which is what they're doing.
But I certainly want to live in a republic where if the Congress says that the executive branch should spend money, that they need to spend that money. So again, it does have to go back to Congress, and that's the
It has to go back to Congress before the mass firings take place, ding dong.
The process should work.
Okay, I have a second written submission, and again, if students could move to the microphones to be prepared to ask their questions next. The second question comes from Haley and the topic of the category of the Constitution. As a mother of 3, I'm afraid that my children won't have as many rights as I have right now. The current administration is saying it's illegal to peacefully protest in front of Tesla, that it's illegal for networks such as CNN to speak out against Trump, that funding will be pulled from colleges that allow peaceful protests. How do you plan to protect our liberties in the Constitution?
Damn, these questions are really good.
So, our First Amendment right is our First Amendment. Our first most important right is our First Amendment right. Everything else follows from that, and we're getting I mean this sincerely, a good example of that here tonight. You guys certainly have the right to address your government and share your opinions as well too. I think that what's clear is when it crosses the line into violence or support for terrorism, or when it marginalizes the rights of other folks.
Yeah, like the marginalizes the rights of folks like poor whittle Tesla.
And so
when you bully Tesla, you're actually bullying the man Nikola Tesla, and his ghost still feels the emotional pain. Oh, Zula Gotia, you might be the audio for this is only in the right earphone for whatever reason. It's only right-sided audio, and I don't have a way of fixing that.
So we know when it comes just on the college campus, on the college campus issue, just because we're on a college campus, I think you really saw some dangerous and egregious violation of the rights of some of our Jewish students. Well,
I'm not using OBS, Jazz Dog.
I think if you spoke on a one-on-one basis with some of the Jewish students at Columbia University and other campuses, they would.
Yeah, sorry. Criticizing a state is not the same as criticizing people. If that were the case, like anyone criticizing America would be guilty of bigotry against Americans, which is obviously silly. Otherwise, Donald Trump saying things about like how America is so filthy and dirty now, and he's going to make it great again, implying that it's not great now, would literally be hate speech. Like, would literally be not protected speech. It would not be protected speech to say MAGA. So, like, I don't know if this is the road you want to go down, buddy.
You would be convinced that what they were subjected to was not people expressing the First Amendment rights, that they were subjected to terrorism and harassment and really infringed upon their rights. So that really is the balance that the government, is trying to strike, that we should all be trying to strike, is expressing your First Amendment.
I'm actually taken aback by this.
Okay, at this time, can we move to the student question? Okay, we have a couple of students who have prepared questions for tonight, so if we can start with those. And we will take both student questions
oh my
together,
God.
and I think that you can respond to both.
Hi, thank you for coming here tonight. I want to dig a little deeper into something you brought up at the beginning, and that's come up a few times. After the president's joint address to Congress, you said, the American people know who President Trump is. If he gets insulted, if he gets verbally hit, he hits back. But you continued, quote, with that being said, I wish that wasn't the discourse in America, and I wish there was more civility. I think many people here would agree that we need more civility in our public discourse from both sides of the aisle. But it doesn't seem that we always agree about what civility means. So first, Can you define more civil discourse? And second, how do we change our discourse going forward? As an elected official, what do you think your role is in that change, especially, as you noted, our highest officials themselves are using less than civil rhetoric? What can we do as citizens, and what can institutions like Whitworth do?
Thank you. That's a great, excellent question.
Second question.
I think we're going to try
We're
to
going
do
to take
three.
two.
and then-
These are
yeah.
connected. So,
I'm to be here today.
I'd love to hear your year in major as well, too.
Sure. My name's Dylan. I'm a senior studying political science and environmental studies. My question is, the current presidential administration has taken significant measures to unilaterally rescind or impound non-discretionary funding, which conflicts with its political priorities. This has been happening since Ukraine in 2019 with Trump. And as you mentioned, the branches of government were never designed to be co-equal. These executive orders stand in stark tension with Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, which establishes Congress as the branch solely responsible for matters of taxation and spending. So how will you leverage your personal fiscal policy expertise from regional and statewide office to help return Congress to its constitutional authority on budgetary matters?
I don't think he's got a good answer for that one, guys. Now I'm going out on a limb here. I don't think this this elected official has a good answer for that one. I think he might be cooked.
Thank you.
That's a quality political twink right there.
Oh, that's two. Okay. Great question. But I mean, they're both great questions, and I'm not surprised that Whitworth students ask great questions. You got smart students here, but yeah. So on the civility issue, you know, I think
He literally forgot how to count to 2. He thought there was another one.
we all know what civility is. It's treating each other as you want to be treated. You know, when you're trying to engage in controversial.
Where's this footage? This is from Washington. Eastern Washington. This is Representative Baumgartner, House GOP member, doing a town hall from yesterday, the 17th.
Issues. You know, a lot of times it would be
Yeah, dude's literally stumbling over his words and trembling.
how you would talk to each other at a coffee shop or on an individual basis. I think as I've been in politics, this is I've been 8 years in this.
Where did I get it from? I got it from a local news outlet, KHQ Local.
State Senate and 6 years as your county treasurer. So this is now my 15th year. You know, the more social media there has been, the more visceral sometimes things have gotten. And I know that if you're always hitting that real outrage machine on the red meat stuff on social media, it can be a little bit like a drug to politicians or even to people individually, that they check their likes. And you can get the most sort of extreme thing you say can get the most likes. And politicians tend to find.
Man, it's crazy how Twitter has cooked these people's brains, where they're like, yeah, civility is when Twitter, actually. Civility is when Twitter, but not optimizing for algorithm. That's civility.
That doing the more extreme stuff online and the more extreme posts.
Yo, Kaname, I was thinking the same thing. He needs a dunce cap. He looks so defeated. He looks like he's been sent to the corner chair in like a 1950s like serial television program.
Or flamboyant or bombastic posts tends.
He's answering the question about civility that was asked first and restoring civility. Then he's supposedly going to go around and answer the second question.
To aid their fundraising, because people react to when you talk about the other side as the enemy, or it's not that we disagree, it's that you're evil, you know, and that's really a lot of the, that's where a lot of the civility, you know, kind of breaks down. And there's some folks that frankly are in Congress that are a little bit more like reality TV stars than they are like serving members of Congress. But, yeah. So, You know, how do we fix it? It's kind of like what I started with. Like ultimately, like I tell my kids, you can only be responsible for your own behavior and try to set the model. And, you know, sometimes I think...
Yeah, you can only be responsible for your own behavior and set the model. It's not like you're a sitting member of Congress or anything. It's not like a sitting member of Congress could do anything about improving dialogue on a nationwide basis. It's not like one of the literal most powerful politicians in office could do anything about it, right? No, our hands are tied. We couldn't possibly do anything. Also, slur. Also, I'm going to post nonstop about trans people and how they're destroying the country. That's how I'll improve civility.
Think of something that would be pretty popular or bombastic or as a tweet and that kind of thing. Like, well, do I really need to send this thing today or could it be tomorrow? So I think that's, you know, some of the way that we have to do it. But ultimately, our republic will only be what we as a people want it to be. And if we want it to be a republic where people scream and shout at each other and do threats and all this kind of stuff, then it's going to be tit for tat, and it's probably not a great future. So, yeah. On the question about the question about the Article 2 versus Article 1 and Congress resetting, you know, its authority. I mean, I think it's inevitable that the Supreme Court is going to have to decide, you know, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it's not like. Yeah, you know how we should really decide all constitutional matters? We should break the Constitution and then wait for the Supreme Court to say whether or not it was legal or not. That's smart. Hey, you know what we like? I'm sorry, but like you could extrapolate that to so many horrific conclusions. Like, hey, does the president have the unilateral authority to just kill every member of Congress? I guess that's a matter for the courts to sort out. Like, what are you talking about, dog? What do you mean? Of course that's unconstitutional. We don't need the Supreme Court to weigh in on whether or not the president does or does not have the right to do something horrific to destroy his political opponents in Congress. Like, dog. This is silly. Let's just willfully do illegal things. Also, I'm just gonna throw this out there. If this is the game you want to play with SCOTUS, then it is worth acknowledging one particular thing, right? And that is something I'm gonna pull up here. Let's find this particular piece. Here we go. Found it. In particular, it's this piece from Law Dork. The immunity decision does not mean Trump can do anything now. So let's take a look. Just scrolling down here, Law Dork is kind of essential reading to keep abreast of what is happening these days in legal news. There's been a refrain since the immunity ruling from many corners that presidents can do anything now because they're immune. That is not so. First, the ruling, as bad as it was, didn't go quite that far, even as to criminal liability, only conclusively addressing immunity as to official acts within a president's exclusive sphere of constitutional authority, and holding that there is presumptive immunity as to other official acts within the outer perimeter of a president's official responsibility. Second, and my point here, the ruling had nothing to do with any of the legal steps that can be taken to challenge and block presidential actions when they violate laws or the Constitution. Now, I want to really hone in on this one because the only conclusive immunity is to official acts within the exclusive sphere of constitutional authority of the president, which means if the president wants to play this game where he's doing actions outside of his constitutional authority, that then opens up a question of if the president defies SCOTUS, goes outside of constitutional authority, well, SCOTUS can actually find the president criminally liable for that. So all I'm pointing out here is that, like, there are still levers to pull here. The president is not completely immune. But would SCOTUS not just lick his boots? Oddly enough, I don't think so. And I'm going to talk about this in more depth probably tomorrow, because it's going to be a long segment. But one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit was this particular thing that happened today, okay? Which is that a new statement was issued from Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, which reads, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose." That is the entirety of the statement, but it is in direct response to the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress kind of bandying around the idea of impeaching different federal justices. So what you should take that as is a pretty unique and singular thing for John Roberts to do. John Roberts is not the kind of guy or the kind of justice who puts out a statement like that just because. He's not a guy who does that just to protect his own federal judges. He's not the kind of guy that does that. He is putting this out there to send a very particular message. And frankly, the more kind of action we see from John Roberts in that regard, the better it is. Okay? And the more likely it is that he is not going to rule alongside the Trump administration on this stuff. I don't remember where I saw it. I'm gonna have to dig a little bit if I want to find it. But it was, one of these law reporters talking about John Roberts and kind of how John Roberts operates as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And one of the interesting things about John Roberts is that he kind of operates along these lines of whether or not something is, I'm going to put it in the petty way that I believe it was originally phrased, whether or not something is rude. If something is rude, he's more likely to rule against it. He is more likely to think that, oh, it's uncouth, it's demeaning, it's below us to side with this person, this entity, this group. And so that's, well, I think that's interesting. Here, I found it. It's from Anna Bauer, who's been doing a lot of great reporting on who's in charge of DOGE through the lens of the courts. I'm a true believer in the Roberts Rudeness Index. There's something very Sandra Day O'Connor about it. Jurisprudence guided by a generalized aversion to things that seem rude, distasteful, or uncouth. And with this quote, O'Connor, who was considered the social as well as the political center of the court, had a habit of dividing the world, people, buildings, controversies, issues, into 2 categories, attractive and unattractive. The words referred not so much to what was or wasn't pleasing to the eye, but rather to an overall level of decency and likability. And, yeah, like, again, other reporters on this issue, basically pointing out this is a bad sign for the administration on the Roberts Rudeness Index. Basically, the reason the Chief Justice had to put out that message short as it was, is essentially that, like, a message to the Trump administration, you are going beyond the bounds of respectability, of couthness, as it were, and you need to cut that out. Because ultimately, you could impeach your way up to the SCOTUS, but then, like, you got to deal with SCOTUS. And, like, if you start impeaching federal judges because you didn't get your way, SCOTUS is going to rule against you. It's very much a don't test me, but also, in order to get a message like that from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, that takes a lot. So he's already pissed. And one thing you got to understand about the makeup of the Supreme Court is that there is a difference between, and I know that this might strike some leftists out there wrong, but there's a difference between a old-fashioned Republican and a fascist. Those are two different groups. I know we like to lump them all together, generally, but, like, those are two different groups. You've got a couple people who are in the fascist category. You know, you got your what's his face? Got bought by Harlan Crow. It's probably more than one of them. But, like, you know what I mean? You've got, like, one or two that are definitively in the fascist category. You've got two liberals. Yes, Clarence Thomas. Thank you. You got Thomas, you got Alito in the fascist category. Then you've got, you've got your two left-leaning justices, and then you got three in the middle. You know? And the question is, where do those three land? You know, Gorsuch can go either way. Amy Coney Barrett has been siding more with, like, the left-leaning judges recently. You've got Kavanaugh. Or do you have four? Am I getting that wrong? Whatever. You got Kavanaugh, who may lean more conservative, more towards the fasci end of it. But, like, the point of the matter is that, yeah, you got left-leaning justices like Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah. But then you've got Roberts. You've got Amy Coney Barrett. You've got Kavanaugh. You've got, you've got a section of people here, and it's not entirely clear where people would go. Again, it's not immediately clear. And, like, again, there are people on that court. Yeah, Elena Kagan. There are people on that court who are willing to sell out democracy. Your Alitos, your Thomases. But I don't know if I'd put money on the court being majority in that direction when the chips are down. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I think that the more the Trump administration pushes beyond the pale in order to bring cases before the Supreme Court, the more likely it is that the conservative justices side with the liberal ones against the fascist ones. Yeah, Trump is very upset about Amy Coney Barrett because of her recent track record aligning herself more with left-leaning justices. Roberts is now signaling that he may be aligned more with their cause simply because of the couthness or lack thereof, or like of the DOJ. Like, it's a whole mess. Okay. So all that to say, it's up in the air, but this is a good sign. This is a good sign. Honestly, I'm hopeful. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but, like, I'm hopeful. Let's get back to this. Hopefully that made sense, folks. Trump just crashed out on Truth Social. Is it about the deportation case?
you know, as I know it's not popular in this group, but for example, when President Biden unilaterally relieves student debt, that's a taxation issue. So, and then
it's not. Like, literally, it's within the power of the federal government to just unilaterally forgive that, actually.
You've seen... Yeah, my point is just that you've always had these tensions from the executive branch, and I'm trying to put the congressional branch back in. Ultimately, if a government entity has been created by Congress, it has to be dissolved by Congress. And so you really have to, we have to, I want to reduce.
Yeah, so why aren't you standing firm for the power of Congress over the power of the executive in this case? Because the executive is, destroying organizations within the federal government created by Congress unilaterally. So, like, why are you allowing that? Why are you carrying water for this man breaking the Constitution?
Government spending, I want to reduce inefficiencies, and so we need to be doing rescissions and other parts of the budget that will catch up with that ultimately in terms of how we do that. So I don't know, there's not in our constitutional system, that's the checks and balances of how it works. Congress has to have the power of the purse.
Yeah, and he's stealing the power of the purse from Congress. So chip, chop, chip.
Okay, we're going to move to more questions, oral questions. I'm going to call out 3 more raffle tickets. Again, the first 3 numbers are all the same. As you are making your way to the microphones, I will pose a written question. So these numbers...
I know I did not intend for us to just sit down and watch this, but honestly, I'm fascinated by how much this guy is getting roasted.
Numbers all starting with 286. I have 437. 454, and I see someone already standing at the mic. Did I call your number? Oh, no, sorry. 5, that's a student for later. 594. 594. So 437, 454.
Yeah, I mean, without the courts, the last remaining check is us. That's, if you ignore the Constitution is supposed to be a check on power. It's supposed to be the guidebook that, allows the courts to enforce order upon the executive and upon Congress. And if you take Congress away, if you take away the last guardrail of the court can use, then all that's left is the executive versus the people. That's it. It's not a pleasant prospect.
594. Please move to the mic that is nearest to you. And while those people are moving in that place, let me ask you this question that comes from May under the topic heading of immigration and refugee resettlement. Here's the question. Hundreds of your constituents came to Eastern Washington seeking escape from danger in faraway lands, many with promises from the military to keep them and their families safe in recognition of their wartime service to U.S. operations overseas. This administration has defunded all refugee resettlement programs, leaving refugee families in limbo, trying to navigate complex systems without help, as Americans are being fired from agencies who have been helping refugees for decades. I understand you consider yourself a Christian. How does refusing entrance to asylum-seeking refugees reflect your Christian values?
That's easy. He doesn't have any. Next question. What is the beer like in Minnesota? Pretty damn great.
Well, that's a great question. I think those of you that know my background, that after I went to WSU and before I went to Harvard, I spent a year with the Jesuits in Mozambique working with war refugees. And the whole reason I went to Harvard studying international development.
Oh my God. That's actually so much worse. You understand how that's worse, right? You dedicated a year of your life to serving refugees, and now you spit on them and despise them. Like you were originally taking a stance against. You understand how elaborating on this just makes you look more like a spineless hypocrite, right? My God.
development because I was interested in trying to help in places like that. And then instead, after 9/11, I went to the Middle East. And I think most of you know that, or at least some of you know that I met my wife on a counter-narcotics team in Helmand Province. And we lived off base with a team of Afghans. And if you've read The Inlander...
I'm sorry, you literally met your wife in Afghanistan? Every single one of these Republicans, man.
My wife's efforts and our efforts to try to get our Afghan colleagues that are targeted by the Taliban into the country have been chronicled. So yeah, I believe very strongly that America has to continue to support refugees and
just, not certain ones, refugees that are white.
We're have written letters of support and are doing that. By the same token, you can't talk about the refugee issue without
this. He's saying this stuff literally at the same time that the Trump administration is fighting to have the unilateral authority to deport anyone they don't like. With anyone, doesn't matter what state of citizenship or immigration they're in. Anyone. So don't you fucking pretend to me that you care about this issue. Don't you pretend, you piece of shit.
Out talking about the insecurity.
There's a story right now about a man who was deported by ICE. Who was detained by ICE and then deported because he was a tattoo artist and got a tattoo of a rose. That's not evidence. He didn't get a trial. You just picked him up, said, "Oh, this is a gang tattoo. Anyway, we don't have to put him in front of a judge, so whatever. We think he's a gang member," and then you deported him. That's it. That is not due process. And you know what? I'm sick of people saying it's an overseas labor camp. It's slave labor. We are recreating the transatlantic slave trade. That's what we're doing. We're sending undocumented people that we pick up, and some documented people, and some citizens, to another country to do slave labor. That's what we're doing with people. Literal fucking man catchers.
Of what's happened at the southern border, and you can't talk about the southern border. Yeah.
Yes, that's what a prison labor camp is. Then fucking call it a slave camp. Abandon the pretext.
And yeah. And so, we just cannot be a sovereign nation with an insecure southern border. And if you look at our community,
no, call it a slave camp. That's what it is. It's not even you're in prison and you have the option to do labor, for 2 cents on the dollar. It's literally just a slave camp. You get paid nothing. And you have no option on whether or not you work. And the worst part is the president of El Salvador has the absolute gall to call it an innovative new profit plan for the prison system of El Salvador. And the innovation is just slavery. That's it.
So we had a town hall. Well, we had a town hall this morning, and there was a woman came to the town hall, and it's a story that I've heard too similarly in Eastern Washington. And she was a grandmother, and she was there wearing a T-shirt of her son who had recently died by a fentanyl overdose. And across... So the overall refugee issue is connected to the chaos at the southern border. which is impacted by the fentanyl issue. We could go into more detail. We'll go to the next one.
Okay, I have a.
Damn, dude.
Let's maybe go to the microphones. Maybe we can try to take multiple questions at the same time. So we'll start over there.
Oh, I'm not allowed to hold it myself. On March 10th, ICE and HHS agents in 6 unmarked vehicles surrounded the vehicle of Jason Ruiz Rodriguez, his wife, Kayla Somariba, a U.S. citizen, and Cesar.
Oh, sorry. Correction. This representative's wife that he met in Afghanistan is an American, not Afghani, which I assumed from his story, but, you know, whatevs.
Ruiz Rodriguez, his brother, while they were on their way to
My
a
bad.
court hearing at the Spokane County Courthouse. The agents demanded that Jason and Cesar exit the vehicle, but did not produce a warrant. When the family refused to exit their vehicle, the agents proceeded to unconstitutionally break the windows of the car and violently remove the 3 occupants, including a natural-born U.S. citizen who is 7 months pregnant. The men were tasered to the point that one of them required medical attention in a hospital, and one of them was also hit in the head with a rifle. Were you aware of this case? If yes, what have you done to defend and restore your constituents' constitutional rights? If not, what will you do now that you have been made aware of this unconstitutional, violent, and illegal act by ICE and HHS agents in your district?
Look at that. Look at that. I don't know, guys. This is a Republican district. These are people ostensibly who are supposed to be in this guy's corner. Makes me feel hopeful. Let him cook. Granny be cooking some dinner tonight.
So, I'm gonna take. I didn't ask who. In this room voted for Donald Trump, but raise your hand if you voted for Donald Trump. Yeah. Okay.
Also, can I just say, like, oh, well, you guys didn't vote for Donald Trump, so, I don't give a fuck, is pretty, weak sauce when these people live in your district.
So we got
a bunch of constituents. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's not really the dunk you think it is to be like, how many of you voted for Donald Trump? Only like 4 of you? Huh. Well, you aren't people I answer to. Yeah, but the people you answer to aren't there. They're not engaged. You know, that's kind of a problem for you. It's kind of a problem for you when you see a wide crowd of people who've shown up to your town hall who live in your district, and your people don't show up. Kind of a bad look. Makes you look weak as fuck. So, it's true. Like, who would want to be so embarrassing as to admit they voted for Donald Trump in 2025? Like, goddamn.
So, you're not going to like this answer, but it would be far better for the security of the state of Washington and for immigrants in the state of Washington if Washington was not a sanctuary state.
Yeah, it'd be so much better for everyone if, there wasn't due process given to people following the law. That's the translation of what he just said. Because, folks, fun fact for you guys. Did you know that seeking asylum, being an asylum seeker, that's actually a process that requires you to be inside the United States. So, like, if you want to seek asylum, gotta be here first. Kind of weird how that works out. If you, you know, and it does not help you to seek asylum if there are people trying to hunt you while you do that, actually.
Because what happens is, for ICE, what happens is, if there's the folks that are bad actors, and they're not all bad actors, but the folks that are.
I love this lady in the front who is just doing 5 minutes of like thumbs downing him. That'll show him. I love it. I love the fight.
Criminals and the bad actor element, when they're not allowed to get into the jails to take those guys. When they're not allowed to go into the jails to get those guys, then they're put out on the street without ICE being told. That means they have to make apprehensions in the street.
Well, fun fact, ICE also doesn't have the authority to break into someone's car. You know, they actually don't have the right to do that. They need a warrant. Believe it or not, they are required to have a warrant. And if they don't go get a warrant, they have broken the law. They have violated constitutional rights. In fact. So, you're defending something that's already illegal, sir.
That's more dangerous. That's more dangerous for the officers, for the federal agents, and it's more dangerous for the immigrants. And it means that instead of being able to focus resources on the truly dangerous element, so that would be a piece of it.
Oh, Kalishna, links in Twitch chat don't go through. Same with links in YouTube chat, but links in Riverboat chat do go through. And don't worry, we also rep Indivisible here. I've repped it a few times throughout stream. No worries.
Anything specific on this specific case, or no? Was there another question from a raffle ticket?
Dog is getting cooked.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at the questions. I'm laughing at the irony of being told to answer the question, then trying to answer the question and getting interrupted like repeatedly. That's the. But look, guys, I do want you to know. I really.
I don't know. In 6 months, like, these people are just gonna rush the stage. my God.
Sincerely, I mean this sincerely. Is that it? I really enjoy doing these town halls, and I really do enjoy the back and forth, the exchange. I mean, for a lot of you folks that are here, and it's all right, because I feel the same way in the state of Washington when I feel like my views aren't represented from Olympia. It's just frustrating when your side loses, and the fact that Donald Trump won the district.
Well, you're all just a bunch of piss babies. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna keep on shitting on all of you, and you know, I'll hope that you guys all forget about this in a month and a half when I do more town halls.
And the fact that Eastern Washington leans conservative, and the fact that most of these policies are strongly supported by the overall folks.
Man, it's so weird that you say that, and yet none of those people showed up to defend these policies. You know? It's so weird that you're saying that most of the people in this district support these policies, and yet most of the people showing up to your town halls really seem to hate the policies. So, like, if people just love them, where they at, bro?
I know that creates angst and some passion on it. All right, let's keep it going.
Let's get to the next question, please.
Can you just, I don't know what part of that I didn't answer, and if you can just give
What
me
are
the
you going to
question
do on
and not
behalf of that
interrupt,
family? I asked a three-part question, but the first one was a yes or no. Were you aware of the incident that I spoke about? If you were, what have you done? If you were not aware,
his
what
ass.
will you do now that you are aware? Because your constituents' civil rights were violated violently by ICE and HHS agents. That's what I asked. What are you going to do?
I love her. I love her.
I am not aware of the details of that case. Okay. So, but in
Fun fact, folks, nobody likes being booed because everyone knows they're not saying boo earns.
general, it will be better if Washington State were to work with federal immigration authorities. So that is one of the things that I'm going to do is attempt to make that happen.
This is the equivalent of look what you made me do, but for constitutional rights, for violating constitutional rights. Look, we wouldn't have to violate your constitutional rights if you would just work with us. You know, you're making us violate your constitutional rights. Someone needs to summon the Dono Ghost? Ooh.
There was a...
I love that they're now just straight up standing up and screaming at him so loud that it's being picked up on the camera that's sitting way in the back.
Guys, when you're an elected member of Congress, oftentimes you got to, before you can just comment on something, you got to learn a little bit more. But not everything is as you read in the newspaper or the details underneath. I think.
What, you guys believe the press? You guys believe the thing that gets you information? Huh. Cuck losers. I only believe in what the universe whispers into my ear at night. Yeah, he's just given up, and now he's just actively skirmishing with them. I think give it 6 months. Hell, give it 3 months, and people are going to be like, they're gonna need to have to beef up security because people are gonna be pissed at this guy. One-eyed heathen, thank you for the $5 dono.
This is so great. I will summon her. How does the Dono Ghost identify? Bring me some oh 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 oh.
Oh 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 oh. I would love to play the Dono Ghost song, but I do not have my soundboard that has the Dono Ghost song on it because I'm at a different location today. Sorry. I should have it tomorrow though, folks.
Okay, we would like to get to a next question, please.
In the same election in the fall that elected you, our representative, Washington also overwhelmingly affirmed their desire for the Climate Commitment Act. And
I love all of these older ladies who are speaking firmly as they would to a small child. Like they're using that mom tone, you know what I mean?
my question and point is your constituency here in Washington State feels that the environment is a top priority.
Hey!
The Dono Ghost has arrived. Ooh, boo. Oh, BWA.
Forlorn79, thanks for injecting some BWA into this stream. Very much appreciated.
For their
Thank you for
well-being
supporting stream
now
chat.
and into the future, perhaps even more than the pet project of saving all the gazillions for the millionaires. And there's so much cost going to be involved in if we don't deal with the climate. So what I see, something I've been working on my entire adult life, has been thanks to Richard Nixon, the EPA, and following clean air, clean water. All of this is being dismantled to benefit the wealthy, not your children, not my grandchildren, or the children of the forest. So will you be...
The children of the forest? George R.R. Martin?
Will you be a voice for the future as far as preserving our environment, as well as bringing on board probably the biggest business opportunity, which would be clean energy, sustainable energy going into the future. So it may really attract your tech bros. I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so I know who you're talking about. But my point is, will you please, I'm begging you, I would be happy to be on bended knee. Will you be a climate warrior?
It's really sweet of her to ask that. But his response is just gonna be that Bugs Bunny meme that's like, lol, no. Will you please not incinerate the planet in man-made destruction? Lol, no.
For all of us.
Yeah, how politically slimy.
I don't think in the way that you would like me to be, but
I'm gonna fight for the planet by, destroying it. That's my way of fighting for the planet.
I do think we have some shared. I do think, our Venn diagram overlaps on things like hydropower and nuclear power, where we're going to need to have more investments in Eastern Washington, given the amount of energy that the state and this country are going to need. And then, you're quite right that the state as a whole ratified those things, but of course there's different people in different parts of the state. Where I represent is Eastern Washington, and those things. Yeah. So
yeah, who cares about the planet in Eastern Washington? It's not like Eastern Washington is on a planet or anything. Who would give a fuck about a planet? You only give a fuck about a planet if you live in a city. Apparently, to this guy.
And so, the fact is, Donald Trump got over 55% of the vote in Eastern Washington. I got over 61% of the vote. And so, and both of us were quite clear, on this issue of whether we support increased environmental regulation, these sorts of things. I don't. I think one of the best things that's happened from this administration is what Lee Zeldin at EPA just announced in terms of rolling back the job-killing regulation that is things like street laws. So we would agree to disagree on that issue, but I think with hydro and nuke, we have some commonality that we'll be working on.
Dog, you didn't even have to do that. You went out of your way to just shit all over your Republican voters. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
Is there another raffle ticket question?
Yeah, who gives a shit about not having shit in their water? Am I right?
Over on this side? No? Yes or no? Okay.
I've been in Spokane for 39 years from New Jersey. I've never been involved in politics before.
Oh, here, it's this clip.
But this is getting really scary. Okay? So the things that frighten me is the way this insane president talks about Canada as a 51st state. Taking Panama by force and buying Greenland. How does this person qualify as sane? Why is he not being impeached right now?
We got props. Look at him go.
So, in short, I don't support us absorbing Canada. Canada, that would be like taking. Canada's been a good neighbor. Canada is much more liberal and left wing than the United States. If we took.
You know, like it's crazy how like he turned something that could have been like just like yeah, I don't support that, and turned it into like one of the weirdest, like the weirdest and grossest justification. And like I think he's joking, but I genuinely can't tell because Republicans are that unhinged. You know, like dude's like, oh yeah, well. We wouldn't annex Canada because we wouldn't want them to vote liberal. And like that doesn't make any fucking sense at all. You wouldn't let Canadians vote if we forcibly took over the country? Like what the fuck are you talking about, man?
Took Canada. Taking Canada would be like taking another California. It would tilt things towards the Democrats.
I mean, Canadians would fight us. They would kill American soldiers. Yeah, they wouldn't be voting. They'd be fighting a guerrilla war in the ice.
Yeah. If we took Canada, the Republicans would never have control again. So we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, exactly, Nikati. I said that when we watched this the first time around, which is just like the reason you should oppose America trying to take over Canada because it's wrong and they don't want that. Because it's like the war of aggression, which is just bad.
On the other two, if we could get Greenland peacefully, I'm all for it, and we should have never given up Panama.
Fuck you, dude.
So just on those issues, one thing to keep in mind. I don't know this for a fact, but
I think I just heard someone yell and call him a fascist, which was very satisfying. More people should shout that at him.
I think one of the reasons that Donald Trump talks so much about Canada and Greenland is with all the AI stuff that is happening, and we're in a real arms race versus China on artificial intelligence, and it's gonna.
Man, fuck AI. AI doesn't do shit. AI just makes everything shitty. It's breaking the internet. It's breaking our technology. It's breaking our phones. Fuck AI. It's breaking our artistic tools. It's stealing our shit in order to commodify it against us. It sucks. It's breaking the environment. It's breaking everything. Fuck AI.
Going to take a lot of government oversight because the AI stuff could be very scary. To have autonomous computers making decisions, it's a real threat.
They're not autonomous. That's like the whole. Oh my god, we have a segment we're gonna get to tomorrow, folks, about how people treat these AI tools as if they are like capable of thought, and they're not. They're just not at all. They're like a glorified Google search engine, regurgitating what they think you want to hear in response to the inputted text. That's it. Like, people act like they're thinking things, and they don't have that capacity.
It's not properly managed, but there's also a defense element to it. But the AI...
Yeah, Bastian, I also feel bad for people who date, like, girlfriend AIs, right? Like, it's the ultimate weaponization of, like, the human impulse to anthropomorphize things. You know, like, there's that scene from Community where, and this might be a deep cut because Community's over a decade old now, but, like, there's a scene from Community where, like, the main character, one of the main characters is like, look, one of the special things about humans is that we can see anything, even this pencil, as a human being. And then he snaps it in half and is like, see? That all hurt you a little bit. You all died a little bit inside. That's what it means to be human. And I'm paraphrasing. That's somewhat how the scene goes. But, like, we're just doing that with glorified search engines. They aren't people. And, like... we need to stop treating them like that.
AI stuff takes an immense amount of power. It will take an immense amount of power in this arms race on artificial, much more than the grid can supply now, and much more.
Yeah, you know, one thing I've noticed, Draxis Stormscale, is that not only have search engines gotten worse, but, like, autocorrect has gotten worse. Has anyone noticed that about AI? Like, autocorrect on your phone has gotten significantly worse because they're using AI to try and, like, correct your grammar or spelling. And, like, I, for example, wanted to write losers today in a Blue Sky post. And it kept getting autocorrected to lovers. And, like... It is constant. It is constant. And it really did start with, like, updates to incorporate AI into my phone. I don't know that for sure. I haven't read news reporting on it. It's just a correlation that I've noticed as a lot of these phone manufacturers have switched over to using AI instead of older autocorrect algorithms. Frustrating as fuck.
Than solar or wind or those kind of things could happen. So AI, one of the reasons the tech guys are so interested, are getting interested in nuclear power again, is because of the AI. And the other most efficient source of power is hydro. So where you have snowpack and elevation change, that makes hydro a lot more valuable. And so what I think is the reason that Donald Trump is so interested in talking about Greenland and Canada is because it's with an eye on the immense amount of power that's going to have to happen in the AI race and for the hydro resources.
Yeah, that's the thing, Draxis. Like, I think AI, in the sense of, like, machine learning, can be really fucking cool when applied to the sciences. But for large language models, I don't know that it teaches us much about anything when incorporated in our day-to-day, like, lives. You know? I think that it just, like... it's not good. It's not good. I hate it.
Okay, we are now going to turn to two more student questions. We will lead.
Yeah, the AI and Frank shit. Terrible.
Hi. Okay. Hello, my name is Annika. I'm a senior here and a nursing student. Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and opening up this space just for questions. In healthcare, I've been working to care for some of our nation's most vulnerable people, and the current administration's decisions and policy changes have been incredibly devastating to the people that I'm serving, and left me and so many others feeling really frustrated trying to support people who have very little. And as a person elected by the people here, and here to represent and protect Eastern Washington. You have an incredible opportunity to really stand against injustice and fight to protect the people that you're serving, and just in changes we see in healthcare. It's really scary also to look at my future and just caring for people. And so how are you going to work to really protect the people that you're serving?
Well, you've picked a great career for job security, because as America's the demographics continue to age, we're going to continue to need more healthcare professionals. One of my proudest accomplishments when I was in the state legislature was when we did the new WSU Medical School, because we need more rural health, and supporting rural health will be a particularly big aspect of what we'll try to do here in the in Congress. Well, so. We need to make sure, so Medicare and Social Security are not being touched.
They all know you're full of shit, bro. They all know you're full of shit. Howdy, McGoggles. Hello, Nameless. Yeah, we talked about AI and Frank, CF. There's a video on the YouTube. And yes, Simric, I think large language models are cool when we're talking about the sciences, when we're talking about the capacity to use them as tools to actually learn things in the sciences to help parse large amounts of information. I don't think they're particularly useful for human beings on a day-to-day basis on our phones. I don't think that does anything useful for us. They're literally cackling at him. Look at his face. He's just like resigned and sad.
If we had the interest, I would walk you through how the reconciliation bills would go and the civics behind it, but that may.
Yeah, I'd walk you through all the steps because you're too stupid to know them. But fun fact, and we talked about this earlier on stream, their goal for defunding Social Security is less actually taking away the money and more destroying the operational ability of Social Security to get checks out. So one of the things they're doing is they're closing Social Security Administration offices, 60% of them to be precise. They're firing a bunch of workers, and they are also ending all phone service support for folks that requires verifying their identity. So basically, if you need to call customer service at the Social Security Administration, you're not going to be able to get anyone to help you. And that's what they're doing right now. Literally right now. And what they want to do in the long term is they want to privatize it. They want to gamble with it on the stock market. And you know, they want to profit off of it. Off of all the money you guys have worked to put into this year after year after year for your retirement. They're stealing your goddamn money and gambling with it.
Maybe a little stretch for right now. So Medicaid right now is a broken system that needs to be improved to protect the truly most needy. So there's going to be no reduction in overall dollars to Medicaid. There may not be the rapid increase that some folks would like. And it's on an unsustainable spending.
There's not going to be any cuts. You literally voted for an $880 billion cut to Medicaid. You can't lie. You can't lie. The House already passed the bill, you fucker.
Passed. So, again, if you look at what Bill
$880 billion in the 90s
with welfare reform, things like having work requirements for Medicaid.
Are you dying of cancer? Get to your job, peon. I fucking hate these ghouls. Fucking hate them so goddamn much. Yeah, Vox Syndicate, like give this 6 months. and we're on the verge of another vote on the budget, yeah, this is going to get dangerous real fast. Look at that. Look at how angry these people are. They know they're getting fucked by this guy.
I'm guessing this crowd would think universal health care or socialized medicine is a good idea. We would agree to disagree on that issue. I don't think putting the U.S. government more in charge of things. So, you know, the things that we want to work on healthcare are things that bring.
Man, it's so great to see someone argue that their job shouldn't exist. Oh, I don't believe in the U.S. government being in charge of things. Okay, then get the fuck out of office, man. That's literally your job. Literally your fucking job. These people are literally your constituents. Oh, I bet you believe the government is supposed to, pay for your medical bills when you pay into a medical insurance program. Oh, entitled much for the healthcare that you're going to pay for?
Costs down, like wellness, transparency and costs, yeah. So. Anyway, in answer to your question, thank you for pursuing the career that you're pursuing. We're going to need you. We're going to need more of folks like you. What we have to do as policymakers.
We need fewer folks like this guy. That's for damn sure.
Is make sure that we have programs that truly serve the most needy, and that you have the tools to do what you need to do, and particularly that our rural areas are supported with health care.
Yeah, look, we don't want to cut Medicaid. We just want to make sure it serves the most needy by cutting $880 billion from it. Don't you understand, you stupid morons?
That'll be a real focus.
We're helping you by taking $880 billion from you.
We have a second student question.
Mr. Baumgartner, though I strongly disagree with many of your choices thus far as my representative, one area that we may find agreement on is the First Amendment. You have claimed to prioritize protecting the right to free speech for all Americans, which you called the bedrock of American democracy. This is why I stand here on my university's campus, extremely disappointed in your statements about protests on college campuses. Hold up. Thank you. I want to make sure I have enough time to say everything. And I want to hear from him, so please let him speak, regardless of how much I might disagree with what he has to say. Over the past year, students across this country have organized and challenged their university's investment in Israel's apartheid state and the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. You have misrepresented these organized protests as always anti-Semitic, despite the prominent leadership of Jewish students and everything they've provided throughout these nonviolent demonstrations. From the 1960s civil rights and anti-war movements to the divestment campaigns against South Africa's apartheid in the 1990s, the First Amendment has constantly supported the rights of college students like myself to organize for the purpose of advancing fundamental human rights here and abroad. Will you commit to defending the rights of all Americans to speak and organize freely, or are you going to continue to support efforts to punish universities and students especially for protesting the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and any other organized protest that's going to occur as this administration continues to harm the well-being of the majority of this country?
Damn, dude. I mean, he did ask you all to be quiet, but, like, I understand the impulse.
Yeah, I mean, I think college campuses should be places for, every place should be a bastion of free speech, and college campuses should be included. I think what college campuses need to do, I mean, since you're generally interested in the subject, I think what the University of Chicago has done in the Chicago Statement and what the University of Florida have done of setting real parameters that you can have free speech, but when you have protests that interrupts the learning opportunities of other students, that's where it crosses the line. And certainly not all, but significant parts of those protests at Columbia Columbia and other colleges were anti-Semitic and were support for terrorist regimes. And you and I may disagree. That may not be what's in your heart. That may not be what's in your heart, and the reason you protest, and you should have the right to speak freely on that issue.
You know, it's crazy that these free speech absolutists will allow people to march, to show support for the KKK, one of the most notorious terrorist organizations still active in the United States. But you know that, like, they're in the same breath that they say, well, that's their free speech right. They're going to tell college campus students protesting for an end to apartheid and ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza, they're going to call them terrorist sympathizers, people who are in league with Hamas. Doesn't make sense to me. That's not a consistent stance whatsoever. Like, even if you bought their initial argument.
But there has been a lot of stuff that's gone on to college campuses that has been a distraction from the core function of college campuses. And
I'm sorry, you don't believe in the core function of college campuses. You guys actively want fewer people to go to college.
Core degree promotion, and because
college campuses, famously where people go and don't protest. Famously throughout American history, places where people don't protest. American college campuses. Okay, bud. Deeply unserious gentleman here.
Yeah.
Good question. Why are people protesting outside of Tesla dealerships being called terrorists? That's a great question.
So I think, you know, the issue on the protests is free speech is fine, but free speech for everyone, but make sure that it doesn't impugn other folks' ability to learn, and that it doesn't get violent, and that it's not support for terrorism, or it's not
as far as I know, not a single Tesla takedown protest has been violent. Not a single one. Have people attacked Tesla dealerships in the middle of the night? Sure. But that does not in any way relate to people protesting these Tesla dealerships.
Anti-Semitic. And I don't think
Night, Turtle Tune.
I don't think that's particularly complicated.
Honestly, I really like that just droll, like, am I a terrorist for clapping for that? Like, that's a 10 out of 10 comment right there. Just mocking derision is exactly what this bastard deserves.
May I ask then, would you then condemn the actions of different civil rights organizers throughout history who, such as in Montgomery, disrupted everything about the city's finances and their ability to operate economically? Because, hold on. Would you then condemn that? Because, quite honestly, it's the only reason that those movements were effective in making it so that people could equally speak. Martin Luther King wasn't a hero until he died and his words were co-opted. So, do you...
Damn, son. This guy going hard. I love this guy.
want to continue to oppress the free speech like people who were in government in the past did in a racist, bigoted way?
I know... I know you have a lot of goodness in your heart. I mean this sincerely when you ask this question, but what happened to those Jewish students and the...
You know, that's interesting because what he had to say wasn't related to that. What he had to say was, do you condemn the civil rights protests, essentially?
The way they were targeted, the way they were made to feel afraid, the way they it was just not right. And the college campuses tolerate it. And so again, the free speech aspects are fine, but I think if you look deeper and you visited with some of those students, you would find a little.
Notice how he wasn't able to talk about maintaining the operations and purposes of the college campuses after that. He had to retreat to, well, Jewish students, though. Like, as if, like, African Americans disrupting, like, trade and, like, travel and business and daily life across all of America during the civil rights movement, like, didn't cause some people in some places who were white to feel a little afraid. Like, sorry, their cause was righteous. Their cause was righteous. The cause of ending American segregation and American apartheid was righteous. The cause of ending genocide is righteous. It is never wrong to criticize a state. And Israel is a state. It is not all Jewish people. Conflation of the two is dangerous. And you know what? They knew that conflation was dangerous even in the 1930s. You can find statements from American Jews at the time talking about the danger of that, that published in newspapers, the danger of that conflation. So it is not a new thing to say, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't actually conflate a whole people with just one state, because they're not the same thing.
A little different situation on those campuses. And I 100% do not support the BDS movement for college campuses. What I want them to...
Sir, respectfully, can you answer my question?
Well,
Interesting, dude. Don't let go.
Yeah, I think you're making a false equivalence. I think you're making a false equivalence between what Martin Luther King did in the Montgomery protests and our civil rights movement and what happened on these college campuses. I just don't accept the premise.
Okay, we are running short on time, and so I would like to just invite two more raffle tickets, 579 and 378. If you can move to the microphone, we will try to get to your questions if time permits. As you are moving to the microphone, I'll just ask one of the written submissions. This is under the category of foreign policy from Cheyenne. The question is, the recent freeze on USAID funding has halted the distribution of HIV/AIDS treatment in many countries that rely on it for life-saving care. The World Health Organization Director General has warned that thousands will lose access to critical medication, potentially setting back progress in fighting the disease by 20 years. Given the bipartisan history of support for PEPFAR and global HIV/AIDS relief, do you believe these cuts align with American values? What is the current conversation in Congress regarding the issue, and does the Republican Party have a plan to protect access to treatment?
Yeah, I think PEPFAR is one of the best things. I think George W. Bush probably deserves the Nobel Prize for what he did for AIDS and HIV in Africa. So I have some history with USAID in their programs. The key for USAID, so it is an important program. PEPFAR program has a lot of fans amongst Republicans. You know, the thing about our aid efforts is that it can't be seen as charity. It has to be brought in line of U.S. national security. And so when AID was set up, I mean, AID was set up by JFK to fight communism. And any of us that have been in a war zone, that have, and I'm not a veteran, but as a State Department guy in both Iraq and Afghanistan and some other tough places, you know that you can't just shoot your way out of a war. There has to be a development aspect to it as well. And so
So I think it's good that DOGE has cut the main branch of our government that puts aid out into the world and makes people not hate us. You know, I think it's good, actually. You know, we need to build bridges. That's why we need to build bridges with other countries. That's why USAID is so important. And I believe that USAID is vital. And that's why I think it should be gutted by 99%. You see? It's really great. It's really great. But, you know, well, you see, somehow cutting USAID is really good. Anyway, here's Vietnam, everyone. Vietnam, I don't know if you guys knew this, but the United States got into a little kerfuffle with Vietnam some ways back in time. And we dropped a lot of bombs on Vietnam. A lot of mines, a lot of bombs, a lot of toxic chemicals, in particular Agent Orange. And one of the things that USAID has been doing, and one of the reasons Vietnamese people, generally speaking, don't hate the United States with a burning passion, is because USAID has been investing into Vietnam for decades in order to clean up the country from all of the unexploded ordnance and chemicals dumped on the country. And by cutting USAID summarily, illegally, unconstitutionally in a recent court orders, apparently, that has brought the work of cleaning up those contagions and that contamination to a halt. As the rainy season in Vietnam is set to begin, a rainy season that will spread a lot of those chemicals all over the lands of Vietnam. We are actively destroying the reputation that our country has spent billions of dollars and decades upon decades building up for no reason. So, yeah. Don't forget Laos and Cambodia, who we weren't at war with. I'm not forgetting that, but I'm talking very specifically about this story from today about Vietnam. Like I'm not like forgetting it. We're just talking about this story because it has the direct link to USAID, and now people in Vietnam are scrambling to figure out what they're going to do because they're getting stiffed on money that they already were counting on in order to clean up the spills. And yeah, it's frustrating. God.
There is going to be ongoing U.S. development dollars. The challenge with USAID to some extent is it thought of itself as an unaccountable charity, and so it needs to be brought under the State Department, and then other aspects can be brought under DOD, quite frankly. And so that'll be, you know, so we didn't really get into what committees I'm on, but I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee, which is very good for our district.
Let us know how your first protest goes on Monday and Tuesday next week. Let's go.
Geopolitically strategic, and we're very international in this district, and Washington State in general, very trade-oriented. Eastern Washington is very trade-oriented. All our wheat goes down to the river through those dams and out to the Pacific Rim. So Foreign Affairs is a good committee. I'm also on the Judiciary Committee, which I could speak to if anybody's interested, and then also on Education and Workforce, where I'm the Vice Chair of Higher Ed of the Higher Ed Committee.
So, questions at the mic?
Hello. Thanks for opening this up again. In his letter from Birmingham jail, Martin Luther
I love these college kids, man. Get his ass.
King Jr. said, "You may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, etc.? Isn't negotiation a better path? You are exactly right in your call for negotiation. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such creative tension that a community that has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. That being said, how will you respond to the allegations that you've been using the LGBT dating app Grindr in secret?
Oh, dog. Dog! I would like to report a fucking murder, dog! Dog! Oh, God, I have one caveat for my general stance of against outing people, and that is outing conservative politicians and large political figures is unambiguously a public good. Like, oh my God, dog.
That would be news to my wife. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. We'll take it from this side. We are coming near the end of our 75 minutes. And
news to his wife, but not to him. Interesting. He didn't say it would be news to me, as if he already knows.
We have time for one more question. Thank you.
Hello, Representative Baumgartner. I am Molly Hanson, and I'm a senior here at Whitworth. I'm a community health major, political science major. And I have another question about supporting your constituents. Representative Baumgartner, as one of only 2 Republicans supporting the Democratic bill aimed at assisting federal workers who lost their jobs due to mass layoffs led by Elon Musk's DOGE service, can you elaborate on your decision? How important are the jobs of federal workers in Washington state? And what steps will you take to support these workers in the face of such widespread and indiscriminate layoffs?
Well, we want a really good federal workforce. You know, both my parents were public sector.
There's literally not been a single question in this town hall that is friendly to him, which is a definite change of pace from last time. We saw just a small couple of questions from the last one he did, and there were people being like, "I think it would be a good idea to eliminate the Department of Education," and like he was like, "Yes, I agree." Like, there hasn't been anything remotely like that this time.
Employees, you know, my mom was 43 years the best kindergarten teacher in Eastern Washington. My dad was 40 years professor at Washington State University. I've been.
Yeah, you know what they didn't need? A Department of Education to help fund their schools. You're right. You're so right. Your mom should have worked in a much less funded school. You know, should have been teaching 50 children in her class. Would have helped build her character.
Been a federal employee. I want really good, talented people spinning turbines at our hydroelectric dams. I want really talented people taking care of our veterans. Really talented people guarding our nuclear stockpiles.
Really talented people taking care of our veterans. That's why you are voting and helping to cut the VA, right?
But with that being said, we do have a bloated federal government. There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. Just one example.
You know, like, people always say this. If there's a lot of fraud... Did you know that fraud is a crime? Did you know that if you're going to claim that there's a lot of fraud, that's actually a thing you should be able to point to as criminal offenses? So if you're going to claim that this is a crime, should be able to point to some, I don't know, police records on that one. Some charges. Some arrests, even. And yet, it's almost like there aren't any. Almost like they're making it up. What? Strange, I know. A Republican making something up, whole cloth, out of their ass? Strange. But stranger things have happened.
Okay, well, here's an example.
Prove it.
Here's an example. So here's an example. I know almost nobody in this room voted for me, but after being elected as your representative, we tried to get office space in the federal building, and we went down, and that's where Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray have office space, and it was almost completely empty.
Dude, Cody, I don't know if this is the community for you, if you're going to come in here and say that nobody talked about what happened on the day that Hamas attacked Israel. Because we did talk about that here extensively. So I don't know that this is the place to try and throw those aspersions around. You know? I don't know that this is the place where you're like gonna find a whole lot of people who are like, actually, I do think you should yell, I am Hamas in the face of a Jewish person. Because, like, literally no one here thinks you should do that. So, like, I don't know what you've seen elsewhere, but, like, projecting that onto the people here, not really a good look for you. It makes you look incredibly disingenuous. Don't do that.
Because the majority of the federal workforce, or at least the folks there, were working from home. And, you know, you can think that's good or bad, but it was completely empty. But we were told it would take 2 years to get in my office into an empty federal government building, and basic stuff like, hey, what would it take to paint the walls? Or what if we needed to move a wall? Or what if we wanted to have a little cubby caught out there? GSA was incapable of answering those questions. It's a fundamentally broken organization. And now...
I mean, look, you can say, not saying you was having a chat discussion, but, like, we literally do talk about it here. So, like, I don't know, saying no one talks about it in a place where people talk about it, you know, you're gonna get my attention at least, because I fucking talk about it. And when you say, like, oh yeah, people generally have the support singling out Jewish students to yell I am Hamas in their face, like, no they don't. And if they do, not fucking here. Like, no one here is gonna say, yeah, that's good, you should do that. So, like, I don't know. Talk about things that are actually happening here, or be more specific about where you think they're happening. Because otherwise, you're just creating a straw man that nobody here supports. Just, like, you're allowed to have discussions in the chat. Just be, like, realistic and productive about it.
With President Trump's order to send people back to work, for the first time in like 4 years, like, traffic is bad again in Washington D.C. And so, merely our staff are talking about people are missing meetings, and so.
Oh, but traffic, guys, traffic is bad.
And so, anybody. Our government is so large now, and anybody that's worked in a large organization where you're not promoted or compensated based on output, but based on time served, knows that there's inefficiencies in that system. You guys, in your heart of heart, knows.
Because the government doesn't operate like a company, my guy. The government operates as a government. It wants to prioritize people who are stable in the long term, who have increasing competency at their job. Like, you don't get promoted based on how long you work in the government, necessarily. You still have to be competent at your job. Like, he had the gall earlier to talk down to his constituents about understanding how the government works while misrepresenting how the government works to them in the same breath. It's disgusting.
That there's wasteful government spending. I mean, every president has talked about cutting it. And so, anybody that's working in an organization knows that. And again, against the backdrop.
Again, if you were actually interested in cutting wasteful government spending, you would start by cutting, you know, any contracts for any company that lobbies the U.S. government. Let's start with that one. Any company that lobbies the United States government, any industry that lobbies the U.S. government, let's cut all of those contracts, and then we'll start looking at who can actually be added. Outlaw the lobbying first, and then we'll talk about who gets contracts. Just a thought. But I don't think they want to do that.
Up at $37 trillion in debt in what we're doing, so we do need to right size this stuff, you know, and like.
And by right size the stuff, he means cut Medicaid by almost $1 trillion. To then give the largest tax cut in history to the richest people. So, like, I don't know about that one.
To the gentleman that, you know, spoke before and talked about the protest and made the joke about the dating app, I have to say that
I don't think he was joking, bud. I don't think he was joking about those Grindr allegations.
You know, in general, the American people, like, want government to be downsized. They want gangbangers and people that shouldn't be in the country. They're here illegal. They want them sent out. They want fairness. They want fairness. They want fairness for girls in college sports and high school sports. And
he thought that might be a winning card that would get him out of trouble, and they all fucking started booing him. Good on you, Washingtonians. I think that's the function.
And I mean, all these.
Well, let's be clear, Nekati. What started that whole ball of wax was not what happened that day. The whole ball of wax has been going for a lot longer than that. We all know that, right?
So all these issues, to the extent that you engage on them with just yelling and vitriol and this kind of stuff, it's not an effective way to talk about your policies with the American people. It's just not, you know? It may be cathartic to do this stuff, but it's not an effective way. I mean, people don't want tantrums. What they want is plans to govern.
And, you know, it's really rich that he says this. They want plans to govern. Bro, your plan to govern is literally to just let Elon Musk and DOGE do your job. You know, so you can offload all the responsibility onto a billionaire everyone hates rather than having the spine to do the work yourself. That's your job. Your job is literally just sitting around doing jack shit and taking lobbyist money. Oh man, the hard work of having a plan to do nothing.
As one final question as we conclude, maybe on that note about thinking about how we do stuff going ahead, given the trajectory of what appears
He's a liar. That's the problem. Oh damn, that got an applause. Let's go.
This is a question that comes from Barbara and can serve as our concluding question for the night. Regarding checks and balances between the different branches of government.
Dog, literally none of the questions were positive for him.
Given the trajectory of the administration, the continued agreement of the Republican Party, is there a line in the sand for you? That is to say, is there any point at which you might stand up and tell them no? What is... In the interest of your people in Eastern Washington, what is your line in the sand?
Well, in general, I swore an oath to the Constitution. It's very serious to me. I swore an oath to the Constitution.
In general, I have a line in the sand somewhere.
Before I went to Iraq, I swore an oath to the Constitution, becoming a member of Congress. I would say that I understand this room is different than the rest of Eastern Washington, but you guys
don't actually represent my constituents.
You are. So I think, and I'm not saying you're being disingenuous in your heart of hearts, but you have a perception that America is spiraling to some kind of a constitutional crisis. Yeah. And
imagine how much angrier they're going to be in like 3 months. I want to check back in. I feel like this is one of my barometers that I want to pay attention to going forward. This town hall and what's happening here in this neck of the woods. I want to pay attention to what's happening here. I'm wondering if in like a month and a half, 3 months, they're going to have a packed, like there aren't going to be any seats, you know?
And by and large, while I would have some disagreements with President Trump on some things like tariffs and some other issues, by and large,
I mean, they were already supposed to stop doing them, but like this guy did it yesterday, and so like, I mean, maybe they're gonna keep doing them.
What people of America see, what people of Eastern Washington see, is President Trump delivering on his promises, and so.
Friendship ended with Hogwatch. Now GOP Town Hall Watch is my favorite segment. Hell yeah.
So I take my oath to the Constitution very seriously.
Any closing comments? If we could have a moment for closing statement.
Guys, despite the disagreement, I mean this sincerely. I really do appreciate you guys coming out tonight. I appreciate Whitworth for holding this forum. And I would just say, going forward, you know, again, America is only going to survive as a republic if we all treat each other the way that we each want to be treated.
Dog, they are all standing up and leaving as he's trying to give his closing remarks. Oh man, this is great. This is great. I'm heartened seeing this.
And we all need to model the behavior of what we want our republic to be. Most of all, thank you for the students who participated tonight. You guys got a bright future. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Yo, did you see this? Look at this lady. Look at this lady as the lights go off.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Fucking flicking him off. That's great. That is 10 out of 10. The Eagles have landed. Oh my god. That was so fun. I'm not gonna lie, I've been feeling really down and really out of it and really running on empty. And you know what? That was amazing. That was incredible. People are doing shit, guys. People are doing stuff. So get out there and you guys do stuff too. Okay, one of the things you can do, and one of the things I am advocating for folks to do, we need to get out the vote for Susan Crawford out in Wisconsin. There is an upcoming indivisible door-knocking event over on March 22nd. Okay, I'm going to copy the link here for you guys. If you are at all able to make it to Wisconsin and knock some doors, here's the link. Go for it. And also, folks, there is a great phone banking opportunity, I believe this coming weekend. Here we go. You can participate in that regardless of where you are in the United States. That is on March 25th, okay? And anyone in the United States can participate. You just sign up. You get all ready, and then you go. It's super easy. They give you a script. They have you calling people who are likely left-leaning voters. You call them, tell them, hey, this is the date. It's really important to vote for Susan Crawford. I know it's like an off special election, but you got to be aware of this because it's super goddamn important, all right? Those are things you guys can do too. You are not powerless. If you are feeling empowered by watching that town hall and seeing folks yell and fight for what is right, these are ways you can fight for what is right. And guys, if we get enough people out there for Susan Crawford, we can ensure that the entire state of Wisconsin maintains its right to abortion for every single person who needs one in the state. You can make sure that the electoral map of Wisconsin doesn't get re-gerrymandered. You can do things. Okay? So get out there and do stuff. And yes, next month we'll be dragging you into some DSA phone banking.